Hi. Okay, so I'm going to talk about something that happened during my internship, which was at Arches project, and they work with the homeless population in Salem, and they do outreach. They connect people with all kinds of resources. They have a bunch of different housing programs. They work with veterans. They have a day center where people can come during the week and hang out and get lunch, and eventually they'll be able to have showers and laundry and so on and so forth. So I did my internship there. One day when I was there, I was upstairs working on something, and somebody came and got me and said, "Hey, we have this deaf client who is down in the day center." And because they know that I'm an interpreter and that I sign, so they're like, would you mind coming down and talking to her? Because we're struggling to write notes back and forth, and it'd be really great if somebody could communicate with her. So yeah, sure, I was excited about that. The whole entire time I had been there had been no deaf clients at all, and so I went down the day center and met her. And she was super excited that, there was somebody there who signed. And so sat down and had a good conversation with her, just to see kind of why she came in and what she wanted and how we could help her maybe achieve some of those goals. So it was an interesting initial conversation. She had everything written out. She had a whole list of things, and she had obviously talked to a lot of people, been to a lot of places, and was very frustrated, feeling like she was not getting her needs met, didn't know where else to go, didn't know how to get what she needed. She was very articulate, very together, but just very frustrated. And so someone had told her, recommended Arches, and so she thought she'd come down and see if somebody there could maybe help her out. Interestingly enough, she was not homeless. She had a place to live. She was getting her SSI, but not her SSDI. She was not getting one of them because she was married. But they'd been separated for years. But until you're actually divorced, legally divorced, they reduce your benefits and you don't get those benefits. So she was super frustrated about that. She really just wanted somebody to help walk her through advocating for her and how to get some services and how to get some things that she wanted that she was very frustrated by not being able to get. She was very concerned about getting her narcolepsy added on as a disability, which didn't really make a lot of sense to me. So we talked a lot about, talked about that. I just asked her for more information about that. What was her concern about that? What was her goal for getting that added? And I think her main issue was that she didn't qualify for Oregon Health Plan because of her legal situation. So she was concerned that those things weren't going to be covered. And so if they were treated as a disability, then maybe she would be able to get them covered by her insurance. The other thing that she was concerned about was she was in a DUI diversion program, and where she had been going, there were no interpreters. They weren't providing interpreters, which was legal for them to do because they were a very small organization. They had less than 50 employees. And because she didn't have OHP, there was no insurance to pay for the interpreters. So she had moved back here from Washington because her parents were here, and she wanted to get into some kind of program here that would provide interpreters if she couldn't get back on OHP. So anyway, she had a long laundry list of things that she wanted help with. So we had a good conversation about that, and I think um, I did a good job of just letting her sort of define how she saw the problem and what her goals were and what she wanted. Um, and she was pretty open to me just kind of then going about it however I wanted to, because she was at her sort of had hit a wall with it and felt like she didn't know what else to do. So I asked her, if she'd be willing for me then to just sort of start doing some research and reaching out to some different people and organizations and kind of seeing what was out there and what was available and what I might be able to do to help. And she was super open to that, super excited about that. So we got all the ROIs for her to sign so that I could just start contacting people and doing some research, because I really didn't know. I didn't know a lot about like the Social Security situation and whether they had to be legally divorced or if they could be legally separated, and about OHP and whether or not she would qualify for that, and a whole bunch of other things. What was cool about it was I talked to my field supervisor and about the situation and about what she was struggling with and what her goals were, and but also the fact that she's not homeless and she's not in imminent danger of being homeless, which is sort of the qualifications usually for that agency to help people. And Linda was great about saying, no, let's do what we can. Let's do whatever we can to help, because I can see these situations eventually possibly leading to her being at risk of being homeless. So that was great, and just to be sort of given free rein to kind of do what I could to help her. So I reached out to a lot of different organizations, different people, made some lists, found some people who said that they could help, and then got back in touch with her and sort of presented her with, okay, here's what I came up with. What do you think about this? Do any of these things sound good to you? And really the thing that really, the people that wanted to be the most helpful over the phone or whatever was the Northwest Seniors and Disabilities. And she reacted fairly negatively to that. Had been there before, had talked to them before, did not at all feel satisfied by that interaction. And it had been quite a while ago, like a number of years ago, and really felt like, there wasn't going to be anything that they were going to be able to do. And so I listened and, tried to sort of mirror some of that back and ask her what it was about that situation that she didn't like, or what she felt like they did that it wasn't helpful, or, and then I asked her, well, would you feel better if I went with you? If I went with you to sort of be an advocate for you and to help with communication? And she said, yeah, please, that would be great. So we set up a time for me to go with her, down there. And that sometimes gets a little bit convoluted because I am an interpreter. And when I talked to them, they did say, oh, we'll provide interpreters, which I was skeptical about because most agencies, it's not like they have interpreters on call. So I was clear with her, and we had a discussion about that before we went in there. And I said, they said they would provide interpreters, and we were both like, that's probably not really going to happen. And I said, so if they don't provide interpreters, what do you want to do? I'm like, I am willing to interpret if that's what needs to happen. I'm willing to do that. Or if you don't feel comfortable with that, if they don't have an interpreter, we can set up another time when they are going to have to, schedule an interpreter ahead of time or whatever. And so we talked about that and she decided that if I would interpret, that would be great if they didn't have an interpreter. So, and so it turned out that, yeah, she was right. For the most part, they weren't terribly helpful. Or I mean, there's not that they weren't helpful, but there was nothing that they could do in her particular situation, that program just couldn't, that she didn't meet any of their criteria. But I think between the two of us working together in that situation where she would say, she would ask me, did I miss anything? Is there anything else you can think of? Or what, maybe another question I should ask? And kind of working back and forth together, and me being there, the worker was really motivated to help. And she's like, let me go find out some more information. And so she went and talked to a bunch of people, and she came back with some names, some organizations that were a place for her to go for diversion, that said that they would provide interpreting services, and that already had a caseworker who signed. So the initial visit would need an interpreter. And she was super excited about that. It was an organization she hadn't heard of yet, hadn't contacted yet. So she was hopeful that maybe that it would be different this time. So I felt like that was really successful, a way of kind of working with her, finding out what her goals were, seeing if they were achievable goals, sort of navigating ways to talk to her about how realistic some of the goals were without shutting her down or without making her feel like I was just one more person who was telling her she couldn't have what she wanted. But sort of getting at the root of like, why are these things important to you, and okay, well, here's the deal. Like, this thing really isn't possible unless you do this. And then also just being willing to just be there. Like, people just need that, somebody to come and stand, side by side with them sometimes, and just kind of be with them. And I think that was probably the thing that really helped her the most. And that's what she told me. She's like, really, you guys, this is the first time I've really felt like somebody was helpful, like actually tried to help me, actually listened to me, and really tried to help me get what I wanted. And thank you so much for that. So that was awesome. Because of the whole pandemic thing and everything, I never saw her again after that. So I'm not really sure what the whole outcome of that was, and if she ended up getting into the diversion program or not. But she seemed really motivated, and was going to reach out to them and see about setting up an appointment. So as far as like skill deepening, I just getting more practice at the coaching thing, and also just more knowledgeable about the resources that are out there available for clients, and so that I don't have to do quite so much research every time to try to figure out what there is and what is possible and what isn't possible. So that's what I got. Thanks.